Hey there, my name is Brianne Lazinski of Soul's Compass Healing. I am an evolutionary astrologer, first and foremost a social worker, and turns out I'm also a psychic. So you can check out all of my support services that I make available. They are all on my website in the description below. I am so excited to talk with you today about this Aries new moon solar eclipse happening on April 8th. I am going to ease into this by kind of picking up where I left off when I was speaking to the south nodal lunar eclipse that we've just had. So, where I'm going to start, I'm just laughing at the word easy that I just used, is Saturn, Mars conjunct in Pisces. Okay, so we might remember that Venus was conjunct Saturn in Pisces on the lunar eclipse, and now we have Mars. So our lunar nodal rulers, Venus and Mars, are exchanging positions for each of these eclipses. Isn't that fascinating? And they are, yes, indeed, both opposing Black Moon Lilith and Juno. So our relationship asteroid, and an asteroid which represents feminine power, to say the very least. I would like to just share a line from one of the pioneers of the Chiron material that we have to work with, Martin Lass. He describes Saturn as having a currency that is effort. And if we think about our wounding and the reactions that we do in response to these woundings, that is effortlessness. And Saturn is effortfulness. And so that in and of itself tells us that when we are simply reacting to our wounds, we will be continuing to go around the merry-go-round of trauma and just continually experience it repetitively. And so this is the nature of the Chiron wound, right? It's like the repetition is the theme. So Saturn can be a sobering realization about desires. Conjunct Mars, right? So the dreamy or the wounded side of desires. And so with Chiron being associated with Virgo, that sort of flavor of crisis, this can manifest into feeling like nobody can be trusted. People just hurt me and limit my freedom. It can also be, what's the point of relationships at all? If this is what I experience, right? If it's just going to bring pain and wounding into my life, why bother? And so it's like an element of truth mixed with an element of sarcasm because we've lost the meaning. What is the purpose or meaning of relationships? This varies greatly per each and every individual, but ultimately it is for our growth, for our evolution. And as I said a million times before, I'll say it again, everything is relational, Libra. And all of life wants to grow and evolve, Mars. And as Jeffrey Wolf Green said, the founder of evolutionary astrology, it is our desires, Mars, that is the leading edge of our evolutionary journey. So we are remembering on this eclipse all of the ways that our desires have been demonized and how that is not okay. Desires are not to be demonized. They are to be made conscious. They come up from the instinctual, from the unconscious, and when we make them conscious, we can apply that effortfulness, that Saturn application of making it real, right? When we do this with intention, we are more likely to find meaning and purpose in relationships. And if we are latent and not enacting our desires and just reacting in relationships to what gets served to us without making our needs known, then we are more prone to experience those repetitious wounds in relationships that make us wonder all of these things, like, what is the actual point here? So, this is the wake-up call, the point of objectively viewing where our desires lead us. Okay? Did they lead to a dead-end road, somewhere you didn't think you'd end up? And what was the recipe for that so-called love? Was it self-sacrifice, being an endless well of support for others, or making oneself or one's needs so small in order to create maximum room for consideration of others? Feeling like you're on the crazy train but don't know how to get off? Let me flip this on its head. Saturn's here to say, enough is enough. Let's take masochism out of relationships by learning how to honor one's own needs first. Here's a seemingly paradoxical thing because of our twisted reality. Prioritizing the necessary freedom for one's own individual desires, will, and survival needs is the first step for truly harmonious relationships. Harmonious relationships doesn't mean that we become the other person or that we become what we perceive they want us to be. If you think about a harmony to a melody, it's a different note, right? Sung together, it sounds good because they mutually complement one another. Could you imagine going to a choir concert where everybody in the choir sings the exact same note in the exact same octave the entire time? That would just be the most awful concert ever. It would suck. And it would, because sameness in unison does not equal harmony. It doesn't. Sounds terrible. So sing your part. Sing the notes you were born to sing. Sing in your octave. Stick to your range. Be you. With Mercury conjunct Chiron in Aries on the North Node on this new moon. If it were only that easy, hey? To be you. All this shadow Libra took out individuality. Chiron and Aries wound is a lack of self-worth, which leads to sacrificing one's own authenticity in relationships, which leads to avoiding conflict in any situation where taking a stand for oneself is necessary. So guess what? No one else is going to make it comfortable for you to be you. Part of this wounded journeying is the realization that one may have to fight for true self-worth. Self-worth is not something that anybody is going to give you. It's something you take. Stand up for yourself and take it back. It was always there, and yet it needs you to fight for it. Reclaiming self-worth goes hand in hand with baring your teeth and growling loudly. I don't know if you've ever watched an animal fend off another animal when it impedes on its territory, but it's not a pretty exchange. There's growling, there's snarling, there might even be biting, it's a scene, it's a conflict. There is a protection, a defense, a boundary has been crossed, and therefore action is required, effort is required. And this is why I would just love to see punching bags being made safely available to communities for free, because let's face it, people piss each other off. And that is just human nature, right? When it comes to our biology, wouldn't it be fantastic to have an outlet for our anger, so the nervous system can run its course and close that trauma loop, rather than suppressing it, returning to the relationship to sort out the conflict with a regulated nervous system? Wouldn't that be better than suppressing it and then having these volcanic eruptions everywhere and all the other shit that goes with suppressed anger? And this can be what we can be feeling right now, actually, as this Chiron is exposing us to our wounds, shining a light on it. Can be, has there been a pattern of repressed anger? And why? Were there no healthy tools to sort out conflict in relationships? Why? We are learning how to see anger as an ally and recognize its purpose in our biology, because we are more like those animals protecting and defending its territory than we are led to believe. Anger has a place. It has a very important place, and that is when a boundary is crossed. Anger comes up, and it is a part of that sympathetic nervous system state, which energizes us to take action, to fight or flight, to protect and defend. And this is the part of us, of humanity, that has been demonized yet also glorified. It really just makes me fucking sick to look at it, actually. It's like, let's just make all these movies with all of this violence and people expressing all of this anger and rage all of the time, but in our daily interactions, no, let's not do that. And so it creates this recipe for suppression. And also just people, don't have the tools of how to manage conflict effectively. And so these are the ills of our society at a macro level. These are coming up to the surface now because I'm talking about collective themes, right? I'm talking about what affects pretty much everybody on this planet right now. So, Chiron in Aries on the North Node is birthing pioneers of this next wave of collective healing. So, people who understand the potency of presence. So, I'm coming full circle back to my South Nodal lunar eclipse message, where I was talking about presence, and I'm not talking about this new age fluffy presence word that gets thrown around, which is kind of like under the connotations of like, oh, just be present and say your gratefulness affirmations, and everything will be fine because you're in the present moment, and the present moment is always fine, right? No, that's not what I'm talking about when I talk about presence. I am talking about the fact that you are here on this planet right now for a purpose. And that purpose starts with you being you. It starts with carving out your own path for your own life. And so the image is somebody bushwhacking through the jungle or the forest with a machete, right? They're carving out their own path. They're making space for their path, their journey. And when we take the tool of the birth chart, this can be incredibly healing to chart out one's territory, one's path. And that's the main reason why I love supporting people through reading their birth charts, is because I'm catalyzing that individual that I'm working with towards their authentic, individual, unique nature. And so when we look into the world, it's obvious that the majority is thoroughly confused about who they are and what they stand for. So collectively, we are each feeling the pain of losing individuality. And so I'm talking about the Chiron wound right now. There is a choice to be made between continuing to run from the pain, which actually just evokes more painful experiences, as I've already alluded to, or to turn into the pain. To start licking the wound and begin the healing journey of fighting for authentic presence. Fighting for the reason, the purpose that you were born. And I gave the analogy of a car having momentum, and it has a path, a trajectory last time, and this is a physical law of nature that if you take your foot off of the accelerator, the car will continue to drive in the path that it was steered in. This is called momentum. And putting one's hand on the steering wheel very gently can just, trajectories, when we're first starting to change them, don't really need to be dramatically changed. They just need to be a little, right? And so Martin Lass was talking about Chiron being the drive, right? It is that momentum. It is that that wound has momentum. It has a force. And the moon is what steers it, right? And when we think about the moon, we associate consciousness, applying personal effort and consciousness, right? And so this really is speaking to this new moon solar eclipse, because we have an opportunity to not only realize the woundedness of our own authenticity, the fact that that has been sacrificed in order to be in the relationships that we have been in. And I'm speaking in general terms, but I think most of us can really relate to this. This is quite a cultural phenomenon for, the groups and cultures that would be listening to this. And so it's like, yeah, applying that that conscious effort, coming back to Saturn, that moon Saturn, right, is like taking the power back that, yes, there is a certain element of fate, of shitty things that happen to us. And there is also an element of free will. And this is also what has been wounded. So even as I'm talking about this, there might be a sense of like, oh, don't talk to me about me having to get up and stand up for myself and enact my will, because like I just don't know if I have it in me anymore. I've tried so many times and blah, 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 blah. And I get it. I get it. And that moon, though, it doesn't have to be dramatic. It doesn't have to be you wake up one day and you know you're that barking dog going around and taking a stand for yourself everywhere you go. So that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying becoming conscious of when you feel that disconnection between yourself and your authenticity. And so we are living in such an exciting time where we have trauma researchers and specialists such as Gabor Mate and Dr. Amy and others who talk about this. Dr. Gabor Mate says that the difference between the traumatic event, so what happened, and the actual trauma is that the actual trauma is the wound that it created inside of the person. And when we think actually what the word trauma means is wound. And trauma and the wound literally lives inside the cells of the body. It's that point of disconnection from the self. So, the child, when we are children, we are needing to prioritize survival, right? And so, pretty much every child is trained to disconnect from themselves, from their authenticity, in favor of surviving, because there is some sort of relational dynamic happening in their family and or environment where them showing up as their authentic selves is going to threaten their need for survival, and therefore they disconnect from their authentic selves, prioritize survival, whether it's for the purpose of getting a hug or getting food or some sort of basic needs. This becomes a problem when every human being is conditioned with this wound and when we bring it into our adulthood. When that need to prioritize survival is no longer present. And this kind of leads me to talk about Mercury retrograde on this eclipse. Is going to be the flavor of the month as well. Internal process of recovering one's own thoughts, ideas, and desires. How this goes hand in hand with that wake-up call, that disillusionment process that Saturn is initiating with our lunar nodal rulers, right? Venus and now Mars. And so a symptom of a codependent relationship is confusion. Opinions, ideas, discoveries, thoughts, all of these things can be confusing. It's like, are these my opinions and thoughts and discoveries, or are they theirs? And have I adopted someone else's and got tricked into thinking that it was my own? And another take on it is the labels that one uses to self-identify. For example, gender pronouns can make all the difference when inhibiting or strengthening one's freedom or self-expression, right? Another take on this, Mercury on the North Node with Chiron and all the other bits and pieces, is that communicating with the body. So we have Mercury in first quarter square to Pluto. Learning the signals from the body are instinctual survival states which rule our nervous system. So trauma healing that actually works honors the biology of being in a human body. And so this is why I am so excited to talk with you about what I have to say today and let you all know that I am going to be studying trauma and the biology of it for the next 2 years. And I am doing this for my own personal healing journey. And I am also doing this to become more confident in offering my services to a high level effectiveness of assisting people in their trauma healing journeys. So, I was born to be a social worker. I've got Chiron in Cancer in the 11th house. It's who I am. I see pain everywhere I go. I can't unsee it. I see the mechanisms and the inner workings of trauma everywhere I go. And so instead of fighting this, I am going to embrace it and learn more about it from the most cutting edge leading research on trauma healing, so that I can really be assisting people in a meaningful way. And so, yeah, I'm excited. And if you are ready at all to dive into your trauma healing journey, that's why I set up my sessions the way I do. You can book a single session with me, but you can also book a 4-pack, because yes, I do astrology readings, but I don't do it in the way of like, this is your financial sector of your life, and this is your romantic sector of your life, and this is your blah blah blah. No, it's like a therapy session. And so, yeah, it's in me to be that. Like I said, I'm a social worker. So, I'm going, the reason why I offer a 4-pack session with me is not for me to repeat to you my predictions on when you will meet your next lover and go on your next vacation and all of this other bullshit. No, that's not how I roll. It's to support you in your healing journey, in the fine mechanics of it, because I am a big picture and detailed orientated person. So I have the capacity to hold space for others in their healing journey, and I would be absolutely honored to do that with you. And what else do I want to say? I don't know. There's other things, but I think I'm just going to wrap it up there. Yeah, I'm just going to wrap it up. Thank you so much for listening. Appreciate it.